Today we will cover two of the aspects of bringing, first one, ingratitude, and then the other one, defamation, onto the path of practice. Now, the first one is bringing ingratitude onto the path. Even if someone for whom I have cared for as dearly as my own child perceives me as an enemy, it is the practice of Bodhisattvas to love this one devotedly, just as a mother loves her child stricken by disease. Even if a person whom I have unceasingly nurtured with material goods and dharma as dearly as though he were my own son, views me as his enemy and inflicts harm upon me in every possible way with his body, speech, and mind, I will, nevertheless, refrain from the animosity and in no way maliciously return to the harm. Just as an old mother does not just refrain from returning the harm that her sickened or possessed son may inflict on her in various ways. In addition, she is very loving towards him, wishing that he may be free from evil spells or sickness. This is such a great example. In the same way, the one who causes harm has fallen under the power of negative emotions and therefore shows such great ingratitude towards me. In our daily life, whenever people were to treat us with such ingratitude, even if you had shown that person with great kindness, as someone who had aspired for bodhicitta, you should understand that the other person is under the influence of negative emotions, under the influence of the demon of afflictions. So at that point, to cultivate exceedingly great love for this one, wishing that he must by any means become free from all negative emotions, is the practice whereby all bodhisattvas bring the ingratitude of others onto the path. Or one could say, this is like the love of a mother who eagerly wishes that her son, who is afflicted by disease, may swiftly recover. As a bodhisattva, this is something that we need to do. We need to make the aspiration of bodhicitta. The reason I really wanted to give the teaching of this year is usually when we study this, we simply go through the verses, but we have never really studied with such great detail or with such great extensiveness. This particular commentary is very well known in Tibet because the author actually quoted lots of great quotations from great masters of the past. And whenever we study each verses, we will be able to understand the verse with more profundity and in great depth. Of course, studying it is one aspect of it. The other aspect is, can you actually implement these teachings into your daily actions? Ornament of the Sutra states the following: the wise will disregard shortcomings in people who are always at fault and behave without self-control, saying instead, while not wanting to, they have become ungrateful. Therefore, they fully increase their compassion towards those beings. Even though childish beings who are without free will, due to power of negative emotions, show their ingratitude, the wise bodhisattvas will not see any faults in them. But it is taught with they will increase their compassion towards such people. At times, when the mundane beings, under the control of negative emotions, and instead of being gratitude to all of your kindness, they would even harm you, and it is indeed beyond our imagination. At that time, can you treat such kind of people with this attitude of loving kindness? The more the other would harm us, the more compassion we will bestow to them. Without true bodhicitta, it indeed would be very difficult. And then in the 400 verses of the middle way, it is said, like a mother who is especially affectionate toward her ailing son, all bodhisattvas are in the same way, especially loving towards those who are unkind. The mothers are quite great. They're quite great beings, because it doesn't matter how much the children would harm them, they would not care too much about that. The bodhisattvas are also the same, especially to the ones who are indeed inferior. The bodhisattvas would bestow even more love towards them and would care for them more so than the others. And then the way of the bodhisattva likewise states, although they are not wished for, these sicknesses arise. And likewise, although they are not wished for, negative emotions persistently arise. Let it be aggression, let it be greed, let it be ignorance or jealousy or any kinds of fears, afflictions would persistently arise in our mind stream without any freedom to control over them at all. When we look at the others, you need to understand whatever kinds of harmful actions they are inflicting upon you, let it be slandering or any kinds of harm, you should understand the other person is indeed so pitiful because they are under the control of afflictions. So under such afflictions, they may harm self and the others, even sometimes the one that they cherish the most. So to the ones who are under the control or under the influence of negativity and afflictions as bodhisattvas, or the ones who aspired for bodhicitta, need to cherish or need to care for those kinds of people more so. And then to continue, it says that don't feel saddened by all the desires of childish people, always in conflict with one another. Their mental states are produced by negative emotions. Thus, we should think and treat them lovingly. Having observed that it is the nature of all immature beings who have fallen under the sway of negative emotions and angrily inflict harm upon their benefactor, we should act with even more affectionate love towards them. Furthermore, Lord Atisha said, when encountering a particular object requiring patience, don't react impatiently. And don't say this is too difficult. At times when you encounter someone without a good temper, don't react with impatience. Rather, you should at that time, if you can remember, the attendant of Atisha that he purposely bring with him is someone without a good temper, so that he has the opportunity to practice patience. And it is said that each person has a devadatta around them. Though sometimes you feel that it's a lot of trouble to you and would create harm to you, you should not feel impatient about them. Rather, you should see those kinds of people as being extremely rare and to practice patience. Do not say that this is too difficult to practice patience. Rather, you should say that, oh, now I have encountered a jewel, a gem, and I should practice patience with them. In the mind training, it is said, when presently evil is returned for good, and we have done for someone, and this is taught as the returning of the sharp weapon of negative karma that we once created by showing ingratitude in return for kindness. Well, whenever you have someone who treated you or returned harm to your kindness, then you should contemplate that this is something you had done in your previous life. And Rontumpa explained, never dispose of a sense of shamefulness and embarrassment. Even though you may benefit others, they may harm you in return. Even though you may teach in response, they may accumulate evil. There are so many beings who answer good with bad. Well, let's stop here today.
Sunumandai tamche zubanya tonani bejana pasheja kirgana jiranlong chuba chubum sonen jova